Welcome to this week's episode of Thriving Through Menopause, and I've got a treat for you because we are really going to dive into the whole aspect of holistically managing menopause. And I am thrilled to be here with somebody who's a real pioneer of managing menopause in a holistic way, and that's Dr. Prudence Hall. Thank you for joining me.
What an honor. What a pleasure, Clarissa, to be here with you. You are just spreading such important messages, and I'm right with you in terms of that. So thank you.
Well, I mean, let me just tell my listeners a little bit about you before we dive in, and I'm sure we are going to have a lot to talk about here. I mean, you are the medical director and founder of the Hall Center, which is a holistic medical center, and you specialize in women's health, also working detox and weight loss. But you started out life as a gynecologist, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I went to the Keck School of Medicine, USC, and I did my residency there at the big county hospital. So I took care of some of the most needy and really sickest patients that you can imagine. And I thought when I was done with my residency in gynecology as a surgeon, as delivering thousands of babies, that I was ready to serve. I was amongst the best to be able to help resolve and help women move forward with their lives. And I got out into my private practice in Santa Monica, and I realized I knew nothing about menopause. Clarissa, it was just devastating to me that I would be kind of doing what I was taught about menopause, and my women would be crying, saying, "Please, Prudence, please help me," and it's like, "You're not helped. Oh my God, you're not helped." And I went into gynecology because I have 4 sisters in my family and 1 wonderful brother. But we, this was during the women's movement, and I was sent here. I felt a little bit like Jeanne d'Arc at the time, perhaps misguided in that way. But that I was really sent to help women understand their bodies and to receive compassionate care from another woman who really knew what menstrual cramps are. And anyway, it was total disaster the first few years. I wanted to quit my profession, and that's what propelled me into, wait, we got to learn this. We got to learn how to really holistically in an integrated way approach women who can be as young as is really their late 30s. Now menopause is about 44 to about 49. Yeah. And so thank God you've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I think I don't know whether you agree, but I think there are women who are much younger now that appear to be in perimenopause than maybe there was 10, 15 years ago.
This is absolutely my experience too. Absolutely my experience. So women start to, and I've measured really hundreds of thousands of levels in terms of following the trajectory of women, all the way from postpartum to being 18 years old to being 30, all the way through to 90. I think 96 is the oldest person I've taken care of. But yes, our hormones start to decline in our late 30s, and by our early 40s, I would definitely say that most women are in perimenopause. And perimenopause means that the hormones are just lower than they were in our 20s and early 30s. Can we have babies? Yes. I had my last child at 41. We can. I have women who have delivered at 47 and 48. That's really in the very unusual range. But still, we have hormones. We just don't have as many hormones. But this is completely, I would say, tragically ignored and not understood by most people in the medical field. That when a 35-year-old woman comes in and says, "Prudence, I've gained weight," and I'm thinking about one of my patients I saw this morning, Clarisse. Her name is Gloria. And I thought, oh, Gloria, we're in the presence of glory here. But, she was 34 years old, and she said, "I've gained 15 pounds. I have terrible PMS for now. It was, a couple of days. Now it's 10 days. I cry all the time. My sexuality is lower. Prudence, perimenopause.
Oh, yes.
Normal sort of ranges, but not ideal in terms of her levels. So it's like we need to let younger women know that it happens younger.
Yeah. And I think we're still, when we approach or talk to younger women, they go, what do you mean? I've just had a baby. Why are you talking to me about something that's to do with 50-year-old women? But you're seeing that clinically. I'm seeing that in women, this shift in their menstruation, in their moods, in their sleep, that is coming in their 30s and very early 40s.
Yes. So that's good to know what younger women should look for. And it's exactly what you said. Sleeplessness, more PMS, more moody, more anxious. Sometimes, I mean, one of my symptoms when I was quite younger was sort of obsessiveness. Now, as a doctor, I tend to be a little bit we gotta make sure that we cover all the T's and I dot the I's. But it's just like, Prudence, you're nuts. Why are you thinking that the door handles are dirty? I mean, so that is a symptom, being more obsessive, being more scared, more, the moods are definitely memory loss, waking up in the middle of the night, weight gain. These are so common for women to recognize. It's not really my fault. It's not, because women come to me blaming themselves. It's not your fault. It's something that is happening to us, and we can actually take greater control and guide that process into a very positive state.
Yeah, I love that positivity. Talk about a holistic approach. When you say that, what does that encompass for you as a clinician?
Yes. So I view people as having a biological age, and that's how, what is their cholesterol? What is their sugar level? Their 4-month sugar marker called the A1C. What is their skin like? What is their muscle mass, their bone density? What are their thoughts? And, really, who is this person biologically? And then there's the chronological age. And that's, I'm 73. I've been around the sun quite a few times. And then there's an emotional age. And in perimenopause and menopause, sometimes we regress in terms of our emotional age. That, we've learned how to really communicate and how to be patient and how to listen. And in perimenopause and menopause, we're exploding and we can't control that. So, the emotional age, I definitely approach. And then there's the connection to source, connection to our own inner essence. Who are we? Why are we here? What makes what creates our bliss? As Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss. And really, who is the God within? and so, in terms of doing that, there's a conversation that started with women, and depending on where they are in menopause, this conversation can be a very dark one, where really a quarter of women come to me and say, you got to fix it. If not, then it's like, okay, I promise you, we will fix this. I mean, this is my sacred promise to you, is that you are going to soar like an eagle. You're going to be, you're going to leave this behind you like the skin of a snake that's no longer needed. And, acupuncture is beautiful. That's a holistic method I use. I use bioidentical natural hormones, which are the same hormones that our body are making exactly, not the old hormones. I haven't used those in 3+ decades, but we don't want that. We don't want that. But, lifestyles, getting you to sleep again, really helping the, what you're eating and the quality of food you're eating, and, doing herbs. I love herbs. And my daughter is in my practice, and she's a naturopathic doctor, and over the years has taught me a lot about, the herbal approach and healing the gut, getting you on a good exercise program that's not going to be stressful to the body, and integrated.
So I love that. I mean, Prince, that is just such a complete picture for women. And I loved how you mapped out those ages, because yes, we've got whatever clock we've got on the clock. I'm 63, you're 73. But you're right, there is a biological age which can be quite different. I mean, we can be a lot older, can't we, than our chronological age if we haven't taken care of ourselves as women. And of course, emotionally, I think sometimes we feel a bit like 15, not 40.
We've been there. We've been there.
We have been there, but that is so complete. So someone comes to you. I mean, you're obviously doing quite a bit of testing, if I'm correct here, to help women know where they are. What typically do women then, experience working with you?
So before I see a new woman, a new client, I make sure that I have blood work with their ovaries. First of all, ovarian blood work. That would be estradiol, the estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, and this very important hormone that gynecologists do not follow. It's called the follicle stimulating hormone, and it's a pituitary hormone. When that starts to rise even a little bit, that starts to indicate a perimenopausal situation and also a stress situation within that woman. And then I look at the thyroid. You can't go through menopause without looking at the thyroid and making sure that it's still steady, because menopause is a time when women become hypo or low thyroid. And those symptoms can mimic menopause almost exactly, not quite, but almost exactly. So if we treat the ovarian hormones, but don't treat a thyroid that's decreasing as we age, then we're missing a big part of the picture. And then, of course, the adrenals. So I deal a lot with stress. The adrenal glands sit right on top of the kidneys, and they create DHEA, cortisol, pregnenolone, the fight and flight hormones. And aren't we stressed? We are so stressed in this, as women and as humans on this planet now. And then I check the sugar levels. How much damage do you have due to sugar that's coating all your cells and it's causing sort of a cellular dysfunction? And then I look at the D3 hormone. People call it vitamin D, but really it's our skin, this whole skin that's an endocrine gland that can really help decrease breast cancer, colon cancer, flus and colds, dementia. So hormones, when they decrease, don't only cause these myriad of symptoms, they also, increase and give rise to the chronic diseases of aging, which you know about. But I want the audience to really know that it's not just feel better. It's like actually allow a radiance to come into your body where you don't have to have a heart attack or a stroke or, it's all about decreasing the risk factors. So I follow those markers of heart disease and homocysteines and, all the markers for inflammation and things like that too.
Yeah. And I mean, that I question you. I mean, we are seeing, as you said, women who are so stressed today. I think that Professor Anise Mukherjee, who you surely know, is a leading endocrinologist in the UK. She mentioned on our summit last week that she felt that this was the most overworked, overstressed generation of women that she has ever come across. Is that what you would concur with?
Oh, Clarissa, absolutely. We have 100 times more stress than our grandparents had. And we're the first generation who are living shorter lives than our grandparents and our parents. So stress is something that I really work with. When you look at the types of stress that we deal with, we're dealing with careers that are very stressful. We all came through COVID, which was extremely stressful. Children who are very demanding while trying to also support a family. Yes. I mean, women, we carry tremendous amounts of stress. And stress is really, along with inflammation, is really one of the core root causes of about 90% of cancer. So we don't have to get cancer. I mean,
no. And of course, we are seeing that impact of stress directly on estrogen and progesterone as well, aren't we, levels?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. When I work with infertility doctors, fertility doctors, and I learned this quite a long time ago, that when the FSH is higher than ideal, stress really is playing into that. So stress lowers men's testosterone, which is a core, very important hormone. It devastates our hormones too. So deep sleep, 8 hours, 9 hours. I slept 9 hours last night,
Ooh.
which I routinely do.
Yeah.
And, then I'm up like a racehorse and out the door, but it's sleep is important, and it's a way to really restore the adrenals. And meditation. Do you talk about meditation with your?
I definitely do. I mean, I'm a mindfulness practitioner,
Oh,
and I
oh,
work a lot with meditation and have done. I mean, I started meditating when I'm in my 30s, and I found, for me personally, as my listeners will know, that I came back to meditation and mindfulness practices as part of managing my own menopausal anxiety, and it was amazing.
It's very, very helpful. Sometimes even the practice of you're in the middle of, terrible stress, stuck on the freeway, you're late for picking up the kids, you're late for important meetings, we just feel it like, just like a boiling pot. And one technique that's very effective is simply to take a deep breath, hold it a little bit at the top. So 3 breaths like that. And I've measured stress responses in really hundreds of women. And it's just like, how could this be? How could they go from a stress to like here in 3 breaths? Are you kidding me? So that's something that just in the moment I do all day long. I start running behind with my patients, and so that can just help in the moment. And a meditation practice is beautiful, just beautiful.
It is. It definitely, and you mentioned, I think, importantly, the thyroid, and we've had people come here and talk particularly about things like Hashimoto's.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the thyroid is such a key part, isn't it, of all of this? I mean, when women come and they talk about the brain fog and the depression, I mean, the thyroid has a big role to play in that.
Very important. I wrote the foreword to Anthony Williams' Thyroid Healing. He's the medical medium, and I, over the years, have gained such respect for this man. Oh my goodness, he is, approaching Hashimoto's in a very integrated way through diet and through, some supplements. And what I've found is that after the birth of a first or second child, or more as with more children, the thyroid gland decreases more and more. So part of postpartum depression is that estradiol levels fall from these huge levels like 12,000 all the way down to 5. And also the thyroid stops functioning. So women are very depressed by the lack of thyroid and their low estrogen. And the thing, I just like to say that 40% of women's thyroids are never diagnosed. So rather than go to the core root cause of, hey, what's causing the depression? What's causing the weight gain? What's causing the memory loss and this foggy brain? Rather than really investigating it, women are put on Adderall for a more acute brain, or, these terrible, misused, I would say, it's appropriate probably in some cases, medications and antidepressants. And, it's never discovered. And that's because the thyroid stimulating hormone, which is a pituitary hormone, is only 60% diagnostic. And endocrinologists in the United States use that number almost exclusively to say you have low thyroid or not. I mean, do they give the questionnaire that needs to be given about symptoms? No. I mean, women will come to me saying, I've seen 3 endocrinologists and nobody picked this up. And I'm now, they're off their medications. I mean, this happens every day almost in terms of with new patients.
Yeah.
So thyroid is very, very important right here in the clinic. So we want to
that small thing that sits here that controls so much. Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it tends to be low thyroid, doesn't it? Although you can have an overactive, one.
And what is one of the causes of Hashimoto's? Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition where the body rejects the thyroid. It doesn't know that the thyroid is our own organ, and it starts rejecting it, and it becomes very inflamed, and we're rejecting it, and then the thyroid hormones decrease quite quite low. And, there's a lot of volatility in the hormones. So menopause causes and gives rise to many diseases of autoimmunity. And also viruses like Epstein-Barr virus and cytomegalovirus. So rather than just say, we can't do anything about it, we can treat the viruses, and we can, by correcting menopause and helping women's hormones to become youthful, we decrease that autoimmune drive that menopause creates.
Yeah. And I mean, that's really, really serious when we think about the autoimmunity, because it spreads in many organs of the body, doesn't it? Not just the thyroid,
yes, it does.
but, affects our gut and
Yes.
our brain. Yeah.
Absolutely. I deal a lot with the gut. So it's kind of like this. I just happen to have my pen from this morning. So it's when estrogen is low, what is rising is inflammation, which, inflammation, you can feel it in your joints. You can feel it in the headaches that women get. You can certainly see it in the autoimmunity that arises. Inflammation causes that. Estrogen is low. When estrogen is low, there's more stress. So menopause is a state of tremendous stress for women. Not just because we don't feel well, but things aren't working inside of. And, hormones are the body's software. So when we're losing, we lose a huge amount of our software, then, the stress rises and sugar levels rise. So menopause can create insulin resistance or prediabetes in so many women that I see, and also diabetes. So low estrogen, high sugar, high inflammation, high stress, and then the cholesterol goes up. The LDL cholesterol and the ApoB, these small dense particles, ApoB, the LDL-P. So,
So we're really putting the body into this inflammatory state, and we're increasing the risk, aren't we, then of heart disease, of potentially other gut issues that can occur. And of course, everything's interrelated. So, and then the risk between the heart-brain connection, then the risk, obviously, of dementia, etc., goes up.
Absolutely. One of the clues for me very early in practice, within the first year or two that I was in practice, was that women would come to me in their early 40s or in menopause and say, Prudence, I have regurg and I have reflux and I'm bloated. And it's like, that's so interesting. And I realized this is one of the symptoms of menopause that's not widely recognized at all, and is due to the inflammation that menopause and low estrogen causes. So, I used to kind of just jump right in and try to correct the gut problems. And it's not a bad idea to screen for parasites and, to do some of the corrective things like, bringing more digestive enzymes, possibly acid, into the digestive system, making sure that we're eating correctly, that we've eliminated foods that we're intolerant to, such as, I would say the major ones are gluten, dairy, corn, nightshades, things like that. Sometimes soy, things like that. So we can always test for that. But we want to try to keep the inflammation down, and the gut will heal as the inflammation decreases. And also as the inflammation increases in the gut, inflammation spreads everywhere. So it's like a circle like that, down the spiral
circle. And reflux is much more common, and I think women don't always connect that to their perimenopause and menopause, but of course are given PPIs to just treat it and then told to go away. And you can only eat those for a very short period of time, and they have horrible side effects.
Yes, I am not in favor of that as a chronic therapy whatsoever, because that's just saying, oh, the leaves on the trees are turning brown, let's paint them. I started studying functional medicine with Jeff Bland way back when, I started realizing, oh my God, Western medicine does not really seek the core root cause of diseases. It's thank goodness it's now becoming a little bit more common, but we're doing a lot of painting of those leaves.
Yes, yes.
Lipitor,
yeah, we are doing that. We're doing quick fixes and
Yes.
sending women out with a quick fix. It's temporary, and then it comes back in some other form.
It certainly does. And the form that it comes back in is not what we want. We do not want, this standard aging that Americans do, where they lose
or even Europeans or Australians, anybody who kind of listens to this, anybody in the Western world who is following a classic allopathic approach is going to find there's not a lot of emphasis on root causes, but then 7 minutes consult, there's not a lot of time to find a root cause either, and not much time. No.
And I have, my first consult is between an hour and a half, just to go over the symptoms and the hormones and I take care of women from all over the world. And what I've found is that the symptoms are very universal. I mean, when I started really understanding diet better, I thought, okay, my African patients, they have a lot of sweet potatoes in their diets. They're going to do better. No, they don't. They really don't.
No.
And, Asian women, they suffer greatly too. Women are quite ignored in some of those societies in terms of their suffering. Yes. But it's universal. We are so alike in terms of our physiology.
Indeed. And I think today, although there's a lot of conversation about Eastern diets, I think, having worked in Asia, I'm well aware of how much sugar has come into their diet in the form of sodas and fast foods, and ultra processed foods are everywhere.
Yes. One of the major illnesses in India, for example, is diabetes. I mean, it's way up there, which gives rise to...
They have very high levels of diabetes, often related to eating a lot of white rice as well.
Oh, when I put continuous glucose monitors on people, prescribe them, that'll tell you, you just take your phone and you go like this, or you just look at the app. And one of the things that raises sugar the most is white rice.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. I think it's worse than pasta almost.
Yeah.
I don't, you can eat it. They're sometimes foods. Let's put it like that.
Yes. And the things that raise sugar the most are, so there's the white rice, there's potatoes, there's cereals. Americans are very, very cereal oriented. The bread, crackers, and of course, the sweets, ice cream.
Oh, yeah.
And cookies. Now there's some healthy stuff. You can get some raw kind of dessert, which I usually like. And dark chocolate is actually a superfood. So in your shake, putting some raw cacao in there is actually quite healthy. I love superfoods in terms of nutrition.
Absolutely. So when you're holistically managing a woman who's come to you with menopausal symptoms, you're really pulling together a complete mind, body, soul approach, aren't you, Prudence?
Yeah, because I have such a strong knowing, not a belief, but a knowing that we are spiritual beings, very, very grateful to have this human body. And I have accompanied women, through the death process, and have learned a lot about how the spirit just leaves, and that body is done. But can we keep the body radiant? When I was at it, I went to UC Santa Cruz as one of my undergraduates. Also in Europe, I was going to the university, and but there was a person called Marshall McLuhan, and it's the medium is the message, and it's like, I think we've gone a little too far with that, frankly, in advertising now. But if we want to be heard in terms of the great wisdom that women have as we age, and our solutions and our, women's leadership is so different than men's leadership. It's compassionate, it's listening, it's coming to a consensus where really hearts meet, looking for the best possible solution for, many people. And if we want to really be able to bring those messages, we have to have an inner radiance. We have to maintain our wisdom and our knowing really who we are and what we can accomplish. We need that strength. We need our body. We need our body.
Yes.
And not a body that's broken, that's tired, that's defeated. We don't have to do that. We don't have to do that. We have lots of life. And menopause happens when there's 50 more years of life. And I think what women don't know, Clarissa, is that once you go into menopause, it pretty much stays. And, of course, acupuncture helps, and meditation and everything really can be done on a holistic and integrated approach. But we really have to make the decision. Am I going down that path of, oh, yeah, it's natural for the body to decline. That's what nature wants. Nature kills off the animals that are no longer able to reproduce. But we have 50 more years or 40 more years of bringing our messages and our wisdom and our love. Really, medicine needs to come from a place of love, not from a place of pharmaceutical dictionaries.
Yeah. I think that is the most beautiful thing I've heard described about what medicine should and can be. And you're practicing that yourself, Prudence, in your clinic. That it's not just about, you've got a symptom, here's a medication, go away and take it, see if it works, and then we'll just play about with the dose if it doesn't, as opposed to seeing the person as whole with the potential to be vital and giving so much to the world. And that's right. You and I are past our menopause, past our sort of perimenopause. We're in a completely different phase of life. We've got years of living left to live. We're only just getting going, I feel.
That is the tragedy. So just when we're getting going, our careers are at that stage where we really, are beautifully in tune with ourselves and our careers and other people and communicating. And the children, if we decide to have children, are grown and on their own. Just when we're ready, we're the egglings that are hatching. It starts to fall apart.
Yeah.
And it does not have to do that. Take this path, not this path. I don't know if you get these questions, but women are always saying to me, and I think it's a legitimate question to ask, isn't this what nature wanted? And it's like, look, the salmon spawn and then die when they're 2, maybe 3 years old. And so many, this is so common with life. Plants will flower, release their plants, and then die. So we have strategies, integrated, very natural strategies, and with some help, with some hormones too, some natural hormones, to not have to go that route. And if you're having a heart attack and they say, well, you maybe can have 30 more good years if we rush you to the cath lab and kind of open up your arteries. Do you want to do that? No, it's natural for me to die now. See, we don't have to do that.
No, we don't.
We really don't. So the goal is to stay vital, deliver our messages, live our bliss, be in service to others. For me, that's the thing that makes me the happiest. But, to really live your purpose, or live just from the joy. Sometimes a purpose for someone is just reaching out to someone. And that's a huge thing to do. It could be little.
Yeah, I love that, because I think, yes, this sense of what we're here to do, this sense of fulfilling our purpose, nourishing others, supporting others from a place of our own health and wellness is so beautiful, so beautiful. So you mentioned bioidentical hormones a number of times. Prince, tell us a little bit more about those, because I think people are sometimes a little confused as to what that is and how that's different maybe to mainstream pharmaceuticals.
Yes, it is confusing. In my gynecology and obstetrics residency, I was taught to use Premarin. Now, Premarin was created in the mid-1940s And by the way, we didn't know about hormones in the 1920s or 1930s. We really didn't. So, I think that pharmaceutical companies, which were just beginning at that point, understood the suffering of women, and they were trying to alleviate women's suffering. And so what they did was they experimented with lots of different animal types, and they ended up by putting little tubes into the bladders of pregnant horses and draining the urine of the pregnant horses and then spinning it down into Premarin. Prem is P-R-E, pregnant, mare is the horse, N is urine, pregnant marriage. And, that was widely heralded as a way of resolving menopausal problems. I stopped using it in 1982. Really, as soon as I got out of my residency, women said, please do not do that. I went to Europe, and I was going back and forth a lot between different countries at that point. And I realized that the Germans were starting to use these natural hormones that were exactly the same hormones that a woman will make. And you and I have the same hormones, and all women share those same hormones. That the horse's urine actually caused massive inflammation in the body. So there was a study that finally came out in 2001 showing that Premarin increased heart disease, diabetes, dementia, strokes, and actually it decreased breast cancer, which is, I found that really astonishing. How could something that creates so much inflammation decrease breast cancer? But they reproduced that study again in 2020, and Premarin alone decreases breast cancer. Okay, now, do we use Premarin? No, I haven't used Premarin since really 1983 at the latest. And we have these hormones now that come from soy in yams, and it's manufactured by pharmaceutical companies, and the natural estrogen that women have is extracted from those. It is exactly the same hormone that women have. So when I'm measuring something like Premarin, I don't see any of the natural. I see very small amounts of the natural estradiol that we're making. But when I'm giving these creams and these compounded hormones, which use the pure essence of our own hormones, I see tremendous results, and levels change, and it decreases inflammation, decreases heart disease, decreases cancer in general, does not raise breast cancer, although I do have women who develop breast cancer, but it's much less than women who are not on hormones. And, that's interesting. The very small amount of natural bioidentical hormones that's in Premarin, it's a very small amount. There are 35 other different hormones in Premarin. That's lowering the breast cancer. So get rid of all those other horse hormones that cause all the problems and just use the one that actually works to be effective. So I call them bioidentical natural hormones. And the other hormones I call synthetic non-bioidentical hormones.
Yeah.
It's a little distinction there. So I'm very much in favor of bioidentical hormones. I've been on them for, let's see how many years now, probably 20 years, 25 years now. Oh God, 25 years.
That's good. That's good. And I think what's interesting is, though, there's a lot on the guidelines from, say, the North American Menopause Society and the British one, that after a certain age, women can't be on them. So there is often that conversation, which clearly, you're doing something different.
Yeah. So the medical board allows me to say that hormones help symptoms and help treat osteoporosis. It's the gold standard for treating bone loss. And it's like, what happened to the 20 years of research showing that it decreases dementia and Parkinson's disease and is tremendous neuroregeneration of the brain and decreases heart disease? Some studies show it decreases heart attack death as much as 40%. And Clarissa, with all of the women I've dealt with, I've had 4 women who have had a heart attack, only 4.
Wow.
And that's out of thousands of women. It's the number one cause of death in women. And those women are all alive. They're all active. They, one of them, we don't even know if she had a heart attack or not. The doctors say, well, we don't know, okay, she was in my heart attack. And so this is a tremendous decrease in heart disease. And it's also achieved through diet and through a plant-based diet and through sleep and through, a smart kind of exercise. So all the other herbs and the beautiful things that you know about and you teach your listeners about, are involved too. But hormones are a core way of preventing heart disease and all these other diseases too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is what we're learning or relearning from some of the data that's out there. And hopefully we'll keep updating the guidelines and support women more.
Yeah. Guidelines are now about 20 years behind the research. And we don't have that time as a 45-year-old woman or a 30-year-old. We don't have that time. Yeah, wait another 20 years. Suffer, it's just, we can't. Because the data is good and strong. And I think one of the greatest endocrinologists in the world is Terry Hertog. He's out of Belgium. And he's just, this man is third generation endocrinologist. And he approaches, wellness in terms of a similar way that I do, where you correct the hormones. And the data that he is, and then lifestyle and then supplements, but the data that he is collecting in terms of decreasing chronic diseases is astonishing. Really, he's one of the generators. So is Dale Bredesen, doing tremendous work with Alzheimer's disease. He was the head of the UCLA clinics for Alzheimer's disease, and he's up at Bucks Institute doing research. And so, there are really luminaries who are bringing this in. It's not unstudied.
No, and I think that you're right, that the guidelines are really lagging behind the science and the application of the science out in the world.
Yes, that's right.
And doing women a disservice. And women are not
absolutely. And one of the huge, I would say, lapses in Western medicine is they have not approved testosterone for women. And testosterone builds our bones and gives us an inner calm and a kind of confidence and really helps the brain. For men, it's the most important hormone. But for women, it's a very important hormone. And I talk so much, Clarissa, about women's sex drives and about how they're doing with that, that inner joy. And women need testosterone, and it's not going to be approved, no matter how many times people have gone before, government forums to explain it, including Abe Morgenthaler's Harvard group. They've been very instrumental in terms of trying to get that approved. It's just they're not budging on it. And they hate
I hear that.
They hate bioidentical compounded hormones. Now,
of course, compounded hormones. Oh my God. Sets them in a spin.
Well, yeah. Bad things happen to people who prescribe them. I can say I have several arrows in my back as a pioneer here. But, it's the pharmaceutical industry. Thank goodness we have some very important medications. I'm not anti-pharmaceutical. I also use the patch. The patch is a pharmaceutical bioidentical solution. But, we don't want to take that to an extreme.
No.
Patches, when they aren't covered, can be $200-$300 a month for women, and the cream and our little toppy clickers, and when they're compounded, are about maybe $25 a month. So
that's a big difference. Big difference.
Thank goodness some insurances and some Medicare will cover the patches, and then okay, great. But if not, I'm always saying go to GoodRx. Try to get your coupons for any medication. Oh, Clarissa, we're in a state of rapid change, and it's dark. It's really dark. What's happening?
Yeah, some of that's really dark with the health system, definitely in the US, but I'm not sure that it's better in Europe. We can go down that rabbit hole quite fast here.
So I'll tell you
But
one little
yeah.
story. This is just a 2-second story. A
Mm.
week ago, a patient of mine had been in France and she developed very bad pneumonia, and really where she was really almost, she felt like she was almost dying with high fevers, couldn't breathe. So she went to the hospital and they gave her homeopathics. She said, I'm going to be admitted. I'm going to be on massive IVs. They gave her homeopathics. And she said
Yeah.
within a day she was well. So it's
Oh,
like,
yes.
no, this was not a private doctor's office. The
Mhm.
hospital. So,
Oh, yeah.
Germany, Europe, they are more open to taking the waters and, all this.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
That's true. I think 70% of German clinicians prescribe some form of herbal medicine.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I
So,
love
yeah,
herbal medicine.
so do I. I love it. If you had to give, a single piece or some vital advice to women who were coming into perimenopause, what would that be?
Okay. So it's a little bit more multi-pronged. So first of
Yes.
all, recognize what is happening. Recognize the symptoms. You could go to your doctor at 36. They won't even measure your hormones. They're going to say it's all in your head. They're going to give you medication for it. So recognize and be very proactive with your doctor. And if they won't help you, find one who does. It's to be in a weak position is no longer necessary, needed, or at all what I'm encouraging women to be. We are strong beings. We know our body. If somebody tries to tell you that it's normal and that's not what you're feeling, run. I mean, people will give
Yeah.
books, to their doctor trying to educate them. They still won't listen to that. So, be self-aware. It's not your fault. This is really happening and there is help for it. So that's the first thing, my first message. And the second message is there is radiance that can occur from this and be generated from this in terms of knowing yourself, loving more greatly, authentically sharing and creating relationships like you never maybe were able to do as a younger, more busy person. And really allow that to permeate yourself, to create really the beings that we are meant to be and that we are encouraged to be. So know the symptoms, get the help, follow your bliss, follow really, it's not the end of your life, it's the beginning. It is the beginning. I mean, we hadn't been able to recreate ourselves really since we were teenagers. So, at 2, 3, 4, we create ourselves. As teenagers, we recreate ourselves. This is the third chance that women are given, men are giving it. We're giving it to recreate who we are and what we want. And so grab that power, use it for the higher good, use it for your pleasure and bliss, and we're going to have a great time together. We're going to be active and vital and helping each other and communicating and changing the world. We are the change. We are the change.
Yeah, we are. We need to be. The world needs us to be.
Oh, thank you, Clarissa, for being so, I'm absolutely in love with you already. It's just so beautiful with what you're doing. And
well, the
of
same
all the
here. The
people I've been interviewed
same here.
I've been interviewed by, Oprah and all these people, wonderful, wonderful people, but I have never felt in an interview this inspired and this really. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So before we close here for that, thank you so much. Tell my listeners where they can get in touch with you. So if they want to connect, work with you, I'd love you to do that.
So I have a book that I wrote. It's called Radiant Again and Forever. And if you go to my website, thehullcenter.com, you can put your email in and the book downloads right away to you. And Suzanne Summers was very dear to me. I've been in many of her books. And she just said, Prudence, this is the book you need to write. So I wrote a book and I showed it to her. She said, Prudence, that's not the book you needed to write. Write this book. She's so dear and wonderful. So she's done so much for women. So I wrote this book, Radiant Again and Forever. And it really goes into menopause solutions, low thyroid solutions, low adrenal solutions, sex drive, do hormones cause cancer, and it's just free. I'm here to educate and to serve and help. So I would love for you to get that book. And that's how you can reach me. I'm there too. And Clarissa, I'm starting women's groups where I'll have 12 women online and take them through, a deep emotional, mental, physical process of menopause. And they'll end up with their hormones balanced, good ideas of what their marching orders are, because they're going to create those marching orders. And, I would love to see some of your clients in those groups if they need help.
That's brilliant. So we will put that in the show notes. And I love that your book is free. I mean, that's incredibly, that's wonderful, Prince. Thank you for being just a delightful guest. I think my listeners will have got so much out of this. I'm so grateful that we connected and that you've been here in this conversation.
I would love to interview you on my channel. Of course, I'll put this on my channel, but I'd love to interview you in your process and to hear how you came about all of this. So thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you. And thank you for that invite. Beautiful.